Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Green, and I'm a Fulbright Scholar here at Al-Baqa Applied University in the Learning and Teaching Technology Center. In this video, I'm going to talk about writing outcomes. So, what do we want our students to learn, know, and do? So, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what are outcomes? Well, they are statements that tell us what we expect students to learn, know, and be able to do by the end of the program, course, or even at the unit level. As instructors, we need to be able to articulate what those outcomes are. So one useful resource that we can use is Bloom's taxonomy that can help us think about the language when we are writing our outcomes and objectives. And you can see here that it goes from remember all the way up to create, and then to the side there are some useful verbs that can help us in our creation of those outcomes. So the first verb that I want to caution you not to use is the verb understand. So these examples here, students will understand the laws of physics. Students will understand the causes of World War II, etc. Well, what does that mean to understand? How will you know when students understand something? So instead of saying understand, maybe they have to create, or they have to define, or they have to analyze. That's how you'll know they understand. So avoiding understand is an important part of writing our outcomes. So here's some really good examples from the psychology department, and this is from a course, Applications in Assessment and Clinical and Neurological Diagnoses. And the learning objectives of the course you can see on the slide, what they'll be able to do, and notice the verbs they're using. Recognize methods of clinical and neurological assessment and diagnosis. Utilize interviews. Master the use, or being able to use, to interpret results and to write reports. So again, if you go back, you can actually map on those verbs into different levels from remembering all the way up to creating. And you want to have a variety. You want students to be able to remember some facts, but you also want them to apply and analyze, evaluate, and create. So you want to make sure you have objectives and outcomes that come from a variety of the levels in Bloom's taxonomy. So here we can see some of the outcomes in the same course. By the end of the course, students are expected to acquire the following outcomes. And again, we can see a nice variety of verbs such as define, use, apply, and construct. And again, if you were to go back to the Bloom's taxonomy, you'd be able to see that these are represented at different levels of knowledge. And that's what we want to see in our goals, objectives, and outcomes, is a variety of levels of thinking and using knowledge. So how do you write this, right? Well, start with a verb. The verbs are really at the heart of this. So we can look at, again, those examples from the previous slides, and you will see that they start their goals, objectives, outcomes with verbs. And again, these verbs and the goals should really vary, again, from remembering all the way up to create. And it's important to be specific. So for example, they had apply and interpret the results of clinical and neurological tests. It was not apply and interpret the results of tests, right? What kind of tests? Well, for this course, it was important to focus on clinical and neurological. What are the important sub-features of your program that are in your course? And that's where you want to focus on when you're writing your objectives and outcomes. And of course, you want to check your work, right? At the beginning, middle, and end of your courses. Do your course objectives and outcomes relate to your program and objectives, your program objectives and outcomes, right? Are they aligned together? Can you identify specific readings, lectures, and other assignments that help to build student knowledge, skills, and competencies towards those outcomes and objectives? So everything you assign students should lead you back to those objectives and outcomes. And start thinking about how are you assessing students and making sure that they've met those outcomes and objectives. And finally, review, revise, and rejoice. You're going to review your outcomes and objectives at the beginning of your course, throughout the course, and of course at the end of the course to make sure that you met all the things. You're going to revise your outcomes and objectives or revise your course content so that they align. Maybe your objectives are really good, but you discovered that some reading assignments or something just didn't quite match up. Or maybe the assignments are really important and your objectives were a little out of line. And finally, rejoice in seeing your students succeed in meeting the program and course outcomes and objectives because everyone is now clear about what the learning goals are. Thank you so much.